We should always be concerned about Washington. They don't have a clue what they're doing, and they prove it day in and day out. Of course, I'm concerned. I'm more concerned about the fact that we have this gigantic debt. It gets bigger and bigger every day, and instead of talking about a temporary ceiling, they should be talking about what to do, because every country in history that's gotten into this situation has had serious problems eventually, and we will too. This has never happened in history of the world, and it's getting worse, not better. Many countries are starting to look for alternatives to the U.S. dollar, partly because of this horrendous debt problem. The obvious alternative would be the Chinese currency, but the renminbi is not convertible, not completely convertible yet. So you can't have a world's major currency that's not convertible. So I don't know. But I assure you, Maggie, I'm looking every day because I got to find something, because I know that something bad is going to happen in the currency markets in the next 2 or 3 years. This is not a prediction. This is just saying, if we have a collapse of the U.S. dollar, that means financial markets everywhere are going to collapse, including the American government bond market. In the past, when the previous currencies lost their status, there were lots of problems along the way. 100 years ago, Britain was the number one currency in the world. There was no number two. But 50 years later, and that's not a typo, only 50 years later, Britain went bankrupt. IMF had to bail them out. So this has happened before, and I hope we all live long enough to see it happen many times. I know that the government will step in and buy it themselves if and when it happens. I also know that interest rates are going to go higher worldwide. They were recently the lowest they'd been in recorded history. I repeat, the lowest in recorded history. So interest rates are certainly going to go higher over the foreseeable future. Well, there'll be trouble in all the markets, property markets, stock markets, bond markets, currency markets, everything, because you're not old enough to remember, but in 1980 or 1979, when we had our last huge inflationary spiral, interest rates on short-term government treasury bills, interest rates on treasury bills were over 21%. That's not a typo, over 21%, because the situation was out of control and we had to do something. We did. It killed inflation, but it wasn't a lot of fun for a lot of people. We're not able to get to 21% now, but if we get up to 9 or 10 or 13, you pick the number, the whole thing starts collapsing. No, we can't get to 21% again unless it's in a panic, because the U.S. market cannot handle it, but other markets cannot handle it either. Demand will certainly fall if you have interest rates going higher and higher and higher. That's a given. But I don't know how high they have to go to kill inflation this time around. There's been staggering amounts of money printing in the last few years. The world has never seen the debt and the spending and the money printing like in the last few years. So something is going to have to be very, very ruinous to solve this problem this time. I have no idea how high, but it's going to be a big, big, big problem before this is over. You're going to have financial markets collapse. It's been a long time since we had a big, big, serious bear market in the world. In fact, in the U.S., it's been the longest in recorded history. So, no, we're going to have some big problems before this is over. But I remind you, we've always had periodic bear markets. It's not as though this has never happened before. Historically, bear markets, when they come, nearly all assets go down a lot. So if you don't know how to sell short, everybody should learn how to sell short, and or should learn how to put their money in cash. When I say cash, wet cash. US dollars, euro, wet cash, because you could be ruined if you have your money in the wrong cash. So you have to learn about cash and or selling short in order to survive what's coming with the bear market. But again, this is basic freshman economics, freshman stock market economics. That's how you survive. One of the signs that happens at the end of bull markets, you have all these new investors that suddenly hear about this wonderful new thing called the stock market. And it's fun, and you can make money, and it's easy. Oh, it's easy. So they all come pouring in, and it's happening now, as you probably noticed. And it's another sign that we're getting closer to the bear market. I am mainly long the US dollar at the moment because in times of chaos, people look for a safe haven, and most people think, for historic reasons, that the US dollar is a safe haven. It's not. We're the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, but most people, when they think of a safe haven, they think of a US dollar. I'm there. I hope that I'm smart enough, if and when the gigantic panic comes, the dollar will have a big rally, and I hope I'm smart enough, if it happens that way, to sell. Now, your next question, you've already asked it, is where do you put the money then? That's an extremely good question, and I don't have an answer at the moment. I think what's underappreciated in the U.S. is the strength of Asia. Asia has millions of people, and most of them are reasonably well financed, reasonably well capitalized. I mean, the largest debtor nations in the world are in the West, unfortunately. And most of the Asian nations are somewhat better situated than we are. And unfortunately, that's not recognized in the U.S. But again, I don't have an answer. One could put your money in Japan or China or Singapore. There are many places where one could put one's money, but I can see problems with all of the above and others as well. Like, I know we're going to have the largest bear market, the biggest bear market in my lifetime. 2008, we had a big bear market because of too much debt. You look out the window, since 2008, the debt everywhere has skyrocketed, gigantic increases in debt. So I think it's a simple statement that the next bear market will be the worst in my lifetime because the debt has gone up by such staggering amounts in the past 14 years. I hope I'm smart enough to sell short when the time comes. I hope I'm smart enough to sell short the right things. That's fine. That's great. Wonderful. Hooray. But then what do? You got to cover those shorts somewhere along the line. And then where do you put your money? I don't see the US dollar. It might be. The US dollar may have a while longer. But I can certainly see after the next collapse, more and more people are going to be very skeptical of the US dollar. I mean, Washington is driving people away from the US dollar by saying, if we don't like you, we'll put sanctions on you. Many people in the world now, or even our friends, are saying, well, wait a minute. That's not the way it's supposed to be. The reserve currency, the international currency, is supposed to be neutral. Anybody can use it for anything. But now if the U.S. gets angry at you, they say, no, we won't let you use our money. We will take it away from you. And that is making many, including our friends, look for an alternative. So I'm looking for an alternative too. I have to. I have not bought nor sold crypto. Many people have done so and traded it profitably. It's been wonderful. But as far as the currency concerned, and then many countries are working on electronic currency, cryptocurrency, call it computer money, call it what you will. And we're going to have it. The world's going to have it eventually. But I don't see the U.S., for instance, since we're both U.S., I don't see the U.S. when they say, okay, this is money now. I don't see Washington saying, but if you want to use that money over there, you use that money over there. We don't care. That's fine with us. That's not the way bureaucrats and governments think and work. So whatever the currency is going to be, it's going to be government currency somewhere. If it were today, it would be U.S. dollars out of Washington. But who knows what it'll be in a few years. I don't think that the world is going to convert to Bitcoin. It will be computer money, but it will be government computer money.